You know, you trust them with the things that matter the most to you, expecting they'll move it all from point A to point B. But what happens if your mover threatens to keep your stuff if you won't pony up more cash at delivery? Some customers of a Baltimore area moving company are finding out the hard way. ABC2 News investigator Josie Sturman digs in to expose the horror stories tied to this local mover.
This couch was on the truck.
When 25-year-old Lauren Richardson made a big move to New York City by herself, she wanted her favorite things. But for her first 10 weeks in the Big Apple, she had no bed, no TV, and no wardrobe.
Pretty much everything that you see in this closet was on the truck.
Almost everything she owned sat on a truck and then in storage for the better part of 2 months. It wasn't by choice. She says her family paid $900 up front to move her stuff, but the movers wanted more when they showed up to deliver one day late.
And he says to me, he's like, oh, well, I have my boss on the phone, Avi, and he says that you need to give him an additional $900 because it's a second day delivery.
When Lauren refused to pay more than her binding contract allowed for additional fees, she says the movers just pulled away, carrying all her stuff. And she says they held on to it for months.
Experts say Lauren's items were held hostage, a common scheme in the moving industry. And complaints against her mover doing it aren't isolated. She worked with USA Relocation right here in Owings Mills.
Although their owner, Abraham Gabay, tells ABC2 they've never held items, they've managed to rack up 21 complaints to the DOT in the last 4 years, with 15 related specifically to changing estimates, increasing final charges, and holding items hostage. In comparison, the 5 biggest registered Maryland movers with 283 trucks have a total of 4 complaints combined in that same time. One person claims their estimate jumped by $3,000 after a binding contract was signed. Another says the mover told him they wouldn't unload the furniture unless they paid an additional $1,400. Another says she now has no idea where her deceased father's belongings are after being told she had to pay an additional $1,000 to move them.
It has been horrific tales that consumers are reporting.
The Maryland Better Business Bureau has 40 complaints about USA Relocation in the last 3 years, with customers saying the company threatened or actually did leave if the customer wouldn't pay more at delivery. Some who also filed with the feds were told, quote, pay me now or I leave, and they would not release my furnishings unless I paid all the extra up front.
We're really concerned about their customer service, their professionalism, and most importantly, they're not living up to the expectations of the consumer by overcharging, holding goods hostage until that higher amount is paid for.
The Maryland Attorney General's office has heard the same allegations from at least 3 Marylanders, but they're not the only ones complaining. Although the company looks like a brand new Owings Mills business, records from the DOT show the owners moved here from Texas and just launched a fresh website.
Anyone can put up a very nice looking website that promotes themselves and gives an appearance that they are a very professional company.
But their reviews from Texas aren't much better from the feds or the BBB. Customers told the Dallas branch their original quotes were sometimes doubled and their stuff held if they wouldn't pay up, just like Lauren.
Definitely thought that all my stuff was gone so many times, but I've worked hard for these things.
And she worked hard to get them back, although calls from an advocacy group called Move Rescue played a role. We tried to ask USA Relocation about complaints and Lauren's case, but they wouldn't answer their door.
I can talk to her too. Hello?
They also hung up on us when our producer called asking for answers. When we finally got the owner, Abraham Gabay, on his cell phone, he told us Lauren never showed up on delivery day and that he could never reach her. He also later said Lauren often called demanding her things and cursing at their staff. She admits to being a fighter and says that may be ultimately what got the company to hand back her stuff.
I'm not going to let these people get away with that. Like, they picked the wrong person.
Josie Sturman, ABC2 News investigators.
USA Relocation is not accredited with the BBB or a paid member. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration is the agency within the DOT that polices movers. Now, in response to our questions about USA Relocation's practices, the FMCSA tells us they are reviewing this company's operations to determine its compliance with federal requirements. We gave USA Relocation the option to do an on-camera interview on many occasions, or at least send us a formal statement. They decline.